Can y'all hear me? I'm here. The mic should be okay. So, oh, there's nobody here. Anyway, been having mic issues lately, and I'm tired of it, quite frankly. So hopefully that works. Welcome Friday night. Happy panel weekend party. Get your. This is, as a Satanist, Friday night was traditionally the hedonist, like probably the most hedonistic of the nights. That was really when we got our party on. Because the one little gay bar in our town, that Friday night was the big night. Because Saturday night was either the night that people went out of town to nearby cities, or it was like the lesbian nights. It was a little slower. It was a little more country and western, and a little more boobs, and kind of slow. So Friday night was really like the big party night, and everybody made their plans around going to the club. And we do all kind of stuff. Like the plans would start with maybe dinner. You'd go have a few drinks, margaritas or something, and then you'd go to somebody's house and watch a couple of movies, like Tu Wong Fu or Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, Birdcage. Something gay and festive and fun. And one night we watched Kids, Larry Clark's Kids, and it was a real downer on some people's club experience that night. Good movie. I think it's free on YouTube. Horrible movie. It's one of the scariest movies I've ever seen. Don't watch it if you're squeaming. If you can take like baby reindeer level stuff, you could probably take Kids. Maybe. In fact, I might go watch it in the Discord. Oh, yeah, it is open panel, by the way, so y'all come on up. The link should be posted. And what else was... Oh, yeah, and then after that, we would... Because really, the club really didn't get going until at least 11 o'clock. So you kind of found something to do until 11. So movies, then somebody might have like a little pre-funk house party somewhere. So it was kind of like a social build-up to the club night. You'd make your little stops. You get together with friends, see you at the club later, etc., etc. And then, and in Louisiana, the bars closed at 2. So you only had like really 3 hours of activity. But then the way that bar worked is they stopped serving alcohol, and I think they had to turn the lights on. But you could still hang out in the parking lot. Like you didn't have to get in your car and drive away. So people stood for hours after the bar closed. Or we went to someone else's house when it was over. And depending on what chemicals we were on, also depends on like how long the night lasted. It was a kind of make your own fun kind of town. So anyway, that's how I remember Friday nights. Hey, Daniel Berry, speaking of Fridays, yeah, happy Friday. And before that, like in school years, it was I grew up in the MTV generation. I was about 10 years old when 10 and a half when MTV came around. And so I was just coming into junior high school. And Friday nights then was, because we didn't have MTV, we didn't have cable at that time. Friday night videos, late at night, on regular TV, like ABC or NBC or one of those channels. They would show like an hour or hour and a half of music videos. And that was, if you didn't have MTV, that was one of the few places you could see music videos for free on your TV. And so I would stay up every Friday night to see the latest music videos. And then I transitioned from that into all the clubbing stuff. And then in Vegas and New Orleans, those are some big party cities. We did a lot on Friday nights. Oh, and do you remember the other one was, I think it was Night Flight, USA Night Flight. And not they showed music videos sometimes, but they show these little like art videos or cable access type. You never know what you knew what you were going to see with Night Flight, and that was another one that played on Fridays. So Friday night was like for a little kid like me that was just getting into pop music and pop culture and all that for the first time. Friday nights were an exciting time because I was going to get to discover the latest like pop culture for that week and music videos. My whole world revolves like as a teenager, junior high school, around music videos, sex. That box that had oh, it was a device. Was it in the 80s? Cuz all my we were kind of like the lower middle class, and all of my regular middle class friends that lived in brick homes with concrete driveways, they had cable. Their parents could afford cable. My dad had cable, and so and my grandmother had cable. So when I was at their houses, I could get my fix of MTV videos. Sometimes I would go to my grandma's um, just to hang out and watch videos. A channel from New York City, because back then the main they had the three channels: ABC, NBC, CBS, and then you had to hook it up. Like you had your dad or your parents had to do something with the TV, but there was a way to get UHF, which was one channel, and it turned out to be the Fox station later on when Fox became its own channel. And so there was that separate Fox channel that was something else before it became Fox. And they had like different type of programming too. So between that station and PBS, that was really the only channels outside of the three mainstream channels to watch anything on. Unless you had cable. And cable to me was overwhelming. Like 100 and something channel. That was way too many channels for the human brain to really invest in. But it was good because you could see all. Because I don't know if the new generation can appreciate this, but when I was growing up, until cable, which was, let's just say around 1980 for most people, cable TV and Atari came in about the same time. 80, 81, 82. By 82, if you didn't have cable or an Atari, you probably never were going to have it at that point. And Atari was on its way out by 83. So up until that point, if you grew up in the 70s, the only way to watch a movie, if you went to see Star Wars and you liked it and you wanted to see it again, was to go buy another movie ticket at another time and see it again at the theater. So sometimes the really popular movies we would see 3 or 4 times at the movie theater because that was the only way to get repeat viewings. And then the really popular movies, like the top 2 or 3 movies of the year, they would sometimes show as a television special, and they'd air it and they'd break it up with commercials, and that was the only way outside of going to the theater to see movies for free sometimes. And so until cable came out where you could actually watch cinema movies on your TV, it wasn't really whenever you wanted because it wasn't like streaming, but it was I don't know, like Showtime had maybe like 2 or 3 Showtime channels, and they were showing different movies on each one. They had an East Coast, West Coast. And so you had and it was 24 hours. And there were multiple channels. So you had a broad enough selection of movies at any given time that your chance of seeing the movie you wanted to see was going to come up at some point. You just had to time it. And that was still before VCRs or DVRs or anything like that. So you still had to be there in front of the TV at the time you wanted to see the show. And if you needed to pee or get snacks or something, then you just had to miss that part of the movie. Because that was one of the most amazing things about TiVo when it came out. We had it in Vegas. Was you could pause the TV. Just like a VCR, like live TV, you could just pause it. Because it would record a little bit of it ahead of time. And you could record TV shows, so you didn't have to watch them at the time. That was one of its selling points. I think it kind of freed you up from the oppression of a television schedule. But by that point, I was already collecting VCR, like VHS tapes and DVD. I had a huge DVD collection, VHS collection. I would go to the used record stores and get armfuls of movies for really cheap. So I guess that's my, I don't know. That's where the conversation's going tonight until somebody comes up and changes it to something else. Oh, yeah. I remember those things, and they would sell them on the street. And I don't know if I should tell this story. Let's just say someone I know was at a football game, and there was somebody there selling the little descramblers, and they had like each channel had its own descrambler. So you could get a HBO descrambler, a Showtime descrambler, etc. And some people would have like multiple descramblers all hooked up, and it's a little connector thing you could hook to the cable and and it would unscramble the paid channels so you could get them for free. And this guy tried to sell this person that I'm talking about a descrambler, and it was a universal descrambler or something, and it caught all the it descrambled all of them somehow. And shit, I can't really tell the rest of the story without getting people in trouble, although this was like 40 years ago. My God. So anyway, something was worked out with the cable company because we knew someone who had a friend that worked at the cable company, could buy with whatever this little descrambler device was, and we somehow ended up getting free cable for several years because of this device and this connection at the cable company. And I don't know how it happened. I didn't arrange any of it, but I'm just passing on the gossip. That's what it reminded me of. I remember those descramblers. Because one thing I've learned about technology in my lifetime, and that's why I'm not too worried about the future of it, is there's always a way around it. Whatever it was designed to do, there's always ways to hack it, crack it, repurpose. Like, people are going to take technology, and I know human creativity, and I know what it does and what its potential is, and they're going to, like, you think people in the R&D labs or whatever designing these technologies, they think they're designing this marvelous device for some purpose. But when it gets in the hands of other humans, I know what it's going to turn into and what they're going to do with devices. So you have like the technology as it comes to the people, and then you have the technology after the people get a hold of it and what they turn it into. So I think it's always like trying to catch up with each other. And now we have streaming. So now we have streaming. You think this would be paradise, right? Just like with music. You can watch any movie, any piece of video, pretty much ever created, anytime you want, at the tip of your fingertips, from your couch, without leaving your house. Like, what? That's a movie lover's dream compared to when I grew up and you had to go to the theater and buy a ticket every time you want to see a movie again. Except I hardly use any of it anymore, because YouTube and the live streams and the Panelverse are so much more fascinating to me than anything on streaming right now. It's like, now that the medium has perfected itself, this is like the ultimate dream delivery system. The content is no longer appealing because some new medium with new content has come to displace it. And the thing I like about the new content is the interactivity, the mutuality, the reciprocity of it. It's not a one-way interaction between you as the viewer consuming content. I think, like, the first time I discovered... Well, actually, I had a YouTube channel back in 2020. End of 2020, beginning of 21, I forgot which. And we, very early, like almost our very first stream, we had the comment section. Like, our intention was to draw commenters and interact with the audience. But before that, I think I was watching a few other YouTube channels. I know there was a Satanist guy that had one. I think Benjamin Boyce. And I would notice that the commenters had this little conversation community going, and I would start interacting in the comments. And then sometimes the person on screen would address one of the comments I just typed, and I'm like, wow, that is so cool. The TV program can interact in real time with my input into it, and that was the beginning of a whole. It like added a whole new dimension to media consumption, and I started from there. I started interacting and comment. That's how I found my way into the panelverse, like. Because I was an AOL chat whore / addict, and I could chat. Like, I learned to think and type really fast as that screen is scrolling up. And so all you have to do is put me in front of a chat room, and I know what to do. So those comment sections were perfect for me, and I could just give my thoughts, type my comments, and eventually some host would be like, "Hey, you should click the link or come up and talk." And next thing I know, I discovered this. Like, this is my substitute for TV and movies and everything. So, those are my random thoughts on nothing. Yeah, I remember Yahoo. We had AIM and Yahoo Messengers. Those were the two big messenger platforms that most people used. And then Yahoo had the Yahoo groups, which were, that was kind of like Facebook groups and all that stuff you use now. Yahoo, it was a bulletin board kind of feature or interface, but that was the biggest game in town as far as internet communities, and like what you see on Reddit now, like Reddit communities. You could have Yahoo groups and interact through that. That was kind of even before Facebook and MySpace. Yeah, to me the internet has not changed that much. Like the fundamental platonic forms that were developed back in the 90s, early 2000s are still the same archetypes underlying our internet experience today. I'm surprised it took them as long as it did to combine video. Actually, it didn't, because I've mentioned this before. When I lived in Vegas, one of my roommates, and this was like in 2001, had an ICU cam, and he had this whole camera network he was chatting in, and just like the Panelverse. And he would he eventually ended up making little videos, and he would call into CNN. He was like a citizen commentator or something, and he'd be on his little camera, and CNN would have his little face in the corner, and he was doing all that in the early 2000s. The same thing we're doing on the Panelverse. I do know that it's Friday. They're having verbal combat. In fact, I want to kind of check in, and then Flo has a big panel going as well. So there's a lot of competition tonight. This stream was mainly for me to kind of keep the space going and check in, and to provide an alternative if people don't want the drama of the other panels. Maybe you want to have more conversation style experience, or I don't know, different type of topics. We're a little more Socratic here, or I try to be. All right, wow, verbal combat. Oh, is that a Satanist? Hang on. Verbal combat is hopping tonight. It's a full panel. Pro-trans activist. Is that a trans guy? Okay, wait, we got to peek in. I'm fascinated with this. Let's check it out easy. Easy E.
Let's save it.
Brick's saying wait till he gets in the house.
Let me know.
Yeah, save it till we find.
Yeah, Brick's saying
Brick's
wait.
saying wait till I get in the house. Okay.
Look at his. Is this a Satan t-shirt? Beard.
I think it also depends on the situation as well, guys.
I
see. That's those are the renames.
If
Just
you're
make fun of everybody.
Brick is hype for it.
Is that I-Fi?
If you're a farmer, right, you can totally have 12 kids and spend ample time with them. Both parents would. You can. I mean, obviously that's not everyone, but it depends on the situation.
All right. Anyway, that's verbal combat tonight. And then Flo's panel. It's only 5 people right now. It was pretty active earlier. Oh, you know Bumpkin? Are you rooting for him? Satan, you should go debate you should go in verbal combat. You could win. And then he promotes your channel for a week. I tried that a few times. But then it's I guess I'm kind of a snob. There's just certain people in the panelverse I don't want my name and face and image on a panel with. I just don't even that association even made. And so panels that draw certain types of people, certain crowds, I just stay away from. It's my elitism. All right, well, I think I'm going to... It's 20 minutes. I think I'm going to try to shoot for an hour. Let me see if I have any tweets. Well, here's an interesting tweet about male-female relationships. So, why don't we look at this? I'll just read it. It says, it's from, looks like a female. If you ever get frustrated at how women behave around dating, for example, going for chads, bad boys, what's wrong with that? Being unclear about what they want, that seems like it could be a problem. Mixed signals, etc. Yeah, that is one of my criticisms. Is that Evo Psych? If you ever get frustrated by all that, just remember our female ancestors who weren't like that were more likely to die without children or have children more likely to die. So in order to survive and procreate and have children, you had to go for the bad boys, be unclear about what you want, and send mixed signals. I'm not making the connection. But that's not the tweet. The tweet I wanted to share was from Russell the Rambling Fool, who's an excellent follow, by the way. And he says, this is actually a good point. So what's the takeaway? If you want to be a good person, don't be a weak person. It's not moral to give assholes a monopoly on physical security. Being moral is to have power and to use that power to further good and to oppose bad. That sounds social justice-y, but it's actually not, because the difference, I think, is that empowerment. That social justice is victim, like you're at the mercy of external forces, and this is empowerment. Like, don't be at the mercy of external forces. It's almost a moral duty to keep yourself empowered so that you can be a force of good in society. And that's very satanic sentiment and thought, actually. Some of these panels won't let others talk. Yeah, I've noticed that. And the, like, I mean, that even happens on here a little bit if there's 2 or 3 strong personalities or conversationalists dominating. But when you get more than 4 or 5 people, it gets hard to facilitate in general. And depending on kind of depending on what the energy's doing any given moment, I'll either let a like if it's a really good conversation, I'll limit it to the people that are taking part in that conversation. Or if it's kind of just a third space hangout, it's just a free-for-all, and people can just fight for the mic however they want. But I do try to prioritize actual conversations, dialogues, Socratic dialogue, over the other types. And I want to start really pushing the mental health and the men's mental health stuff too. Because I've noticed, like, not only like societally, but in the panelverse itself, that the men's stuff seems to be coming up, and different approaches to it, different opinions on how to handle it, what to do about it, and those could all be valid. Like, I'm sure there's not one way that's going to work for all men, but I do try to provide a very particular way that has worked for the men that I've been helping over the years. All right, well, it is a slow night. We talked about that this morning, actually, with Moose, and he said that it's not just because it's the summer. There kind of is something going on with the Panelverse, and it's a combination of just everybody having a channel. Like, if we're all streaming, none of us are going to be on each other's panels. And, like, people sabotaging panels either actively or just through drama and general dysfunction. And that's one of the things I'm trying not to let happen to this channel. So, but I enjoy doing this. It is a space for people to come and talk about the things that they want to talk about, and mental health and men and stuff like that. So I like to keep it open, whether it's active or not. It's not always going to be hopping, but my goal right now is to do more of my panel work in the evening, like this. This is really working out for me. So probably some kind of spontaneous stream in the evening, and then maybe some coffee, morning stuff. Let me see if I had any topics I want to talk about. I'm still thinking about that peer support stuff. I'm almost wondering if it's even worth, if they're changing it that much. That's really why people talk about the uniparty or the one-party system or the duopoly or whatever, but when I look at the executive orders around this DEI stuff, they could not be more different. They are night and day, universes apart. And so even if that's the one difference between the two parties, that is a deciding difference for me when it comes to where to put my vote. Not that it's going to matter where I am. Like, the blue's going to drown out any red vote I might even cast. But that's not the point of it for me. There's also a symbolic, ritual significance, like the meaning side of it. All right, I wonder if I could go on some panels. Detox, Friday Night Fights. What is this? Oh. Detox looks like he started some kind of... Oh, it's video game fights. Never mind. No, it looks like Flow and Easier. The only games in town tonight, really. And me. Oh, I forgot to put this one on Twitter. Dang. I wonder if it's too late. I guess I can't add a stream after I've already started it, can I? Oh well. Just gotta get better at it. Okay, half an hour more, and then I'm shutting it down. Unless somebody comes and collaborates. I've been on COVID time since COVID, really. Before that, I had a normal schedule, like 9 to 5 or whatever, Monday through Friday. And then hang on, I'm multitasking. And then COVID hit, and I kind of had my schedule was whatever I wanted it to be. And I work so much better that way. Not that I can't do. I'm very good at doing 9 to 5. Like I never had any problem going to school on time, going to work on time, being where I was supposed to be when I was supposed to be. Like I saw the importance of that. I'm like, yeah, everybody has to be able to be where they're needed when society needs them. And so I never really had any issues around punctuality or meeting a schedule or anything like that. But not having one is even better for me because it gives me that creative freedom. But I am talking about the stories you tell yourself. I've been telling myself a lot of stories about this getting a job thing and re-entering the workforce. I'm still not sure it's the right thing to do. I really don't. If I look at that positive maladjustment construct and the personality map and the higher values and the mismatch between me and most of the positions out there that I would be applying for, it's really not the place where I belong. My efforts would be better served aligning myself with an environment with more of those green arrows that's going to allow me to thrive and push me toward my actual goals. This is the practical side of just having to, be responsible for yourself and meet your commitments to society. And I have to do that somehow. I have to find a way to do that somehow. And so I'm wrestling with that. In that process, there's all kind of stories coming. Like this runs deep for me. This runs very deep. Like I said, way back to that Erickson stage 4 and a little bit of 5. And I think that positive maladjustment is the core of it. Like, how do you make that Erickson stage when you're so maladjusted to most of the structures in place to help you make that transition? Because that stage is transitioning people in the middle of the curve, or let's just say people not at the edges of the curve, from one stage to another. So if you're an outlier, what's going to transition you, or who's going to transition you? You have to figure out how to do it yourself. And that's exactly what I can't, because it involves decoding a culture that I don't think I'm ever going to understand. It's like living in a foreign country where you can't read the language, you can't speak the language, and you have to fumble your way about as best you can. That's what making my way in modern, like past few decades of the workforce looks like. And here's the real evidence for me. When I left the workforce in COVID, I did, by any metric you want to use, I did magnitudes more. I did better work, more work. I was able to reach more people. I was able to help more people. I was able to do more of the intensive kind of work that I like to do than I ever did at a normal 9-to-5 job. So when I'm freed up to work at my own pace and do the kind of work that I know how to do best, and I have the creative freedom to do that, I can be more productive and produce at a higher quality than I would in the workforce, working at a job structured by someone else for somebody else. So that's how I know that it's definitely a step down. It's a step down I might have to make. I'm just not sure how to make it. And if I don't figure out how to make it, there's going to be some dire consequences. So that's kind of my my current challenge that's on my plate. And the cognitive part of it is involving all these stories about, basically, am I too much of a freak to exist in the modern world and survive. Like in many ways, I think I'm one of the most normal people around, and I have a lot of normal things to offer, like reliability, intelligence, common sense. I learn well. I'm loyal. I'm trustworthy. Um, the thing with me when we looked at that romantic, realistic way of looking at things, innocence and experience. I'm kind of on the innocent side when it comes to work and jobs, and some would say paying taxes. But I look at a job, a workplace, a team, as we're there for a specific goal. We're all working toward the same goal, whether it's to improve people's mental health or help individual clients or whatever. And everybody there is working toward that one goal. So that goal should be what unites all of us. But that's never what happens. There's all of these like competing agendas and infighting. It's just like Survivor. I had a friend tell me once that he said that the real life, the adult world, the world of work and the economy and business and securing income and resources for yourself is like Survivor. He called it Secret Survivor. He says whether people know it or not or admit it or not, everybody is always secretly playing Survivor. And you just have to be aware of the game. And I can be aware of it when I'm watching Survivor from the outside. I can analyze it as a viewer. It's really hard when you're in the game to see the game, especially for me. I see the game when the dysfunction starts because that game I know by heart. But I don't know what the game is outside of that. But there definitely is one. And there's one on these panels too. Probably more than one. So I stay in my little corner where I could at least like play my own game with the people whose games mesh with mine. All right, 20 more minutes. I'm doing an hour tonight unless somebody wants to come up for a panel. It's an opportunity. Tell your story. Get something off your chest. Ask questions. Start a conversation. Challenge. Confront. Gossip. Whatever. In my culture, we call it visiting. Seriously, that's what we do. We get bored and there's nothing to do. You're like, okay, who can we go visit? And you would just hop in the car, or somebody would come visit you. Like a car would just pull up in your driveway and your friends would get out and they're like, hey, we just dropped by to see what you're up to. You're like, oh, hey, come in. Let's do something fun. Or they would come by and visit you, and then you'd hop in the car with them, and y'all would go visit somebody else, and you'd bring the party to somebody else. It's a tradition, It's called La Vie. There's a documentary on it. I might watch that tonight too. And I used to do it with telephone too. I was constantly calling my friends and checking in because a lot of them lived across the state. They weren't all local. And so I would check it with my friends. Like I'd sit around and I'd think, okay, who can I call? And then I'd call someone. Or I kept in touch with teachers from school, like my favorite teachers. I kept in touch with old bosses or like any adult figure in my life that was significant. I always exchanged contact information and I kept it. And like throughout the years, I would call them periodically and check in on them. Or I would go visit. I would drop by their house. I remember one time, oh God, because we had that little class that I was part of from that school. We got very close to each other and to our professors. And so every time we were in town together, we would make the rounds and all go visit the professors. And we kept this tradition up well into adulthood. And we were probably in our 30s at least. And we were all together in the town, and we said, hey, why don't we go visit the professors? And we never called them in advance. We just showed up, like, because in our culture that's normal. And we would just show up at their house, and they were always so excited to see us because we were some of their favorite students. And we showed up at this one professor. It's my philosophy professor, and we showed up at his house, and he answered the door with his wife, and they had the biggest smile on their face when they opened that door. They were so excited to see us, and it was suspicious how happy they were to see us. And we're like, hey, remember us? We haven't seen you in years. And they're grinning like, yeah, wow, great to see you guys. It turns out they were waiting for their son to come home from Iraq. They hadn't seen him in years. And so when the doorbell rang, they thought that was him. And they were going to have this reunion. And we show up. And so they had to, like, go through this ritual. They really were excited. And at any other time, they would have been. But in that moment, we were not. There was a higher priority than us that we were competing with. So it was awkward. We chit-chatted for a while. And then we're like, yeah, absolutely. Good to see you. We'll let you get back to waiting for your son. And then we probably just moved on to some other teacher's house after that. So that's what these panels are for me. It's my visiting, or my opportunity for other people to come and visit. That's what I like. You know, it's the back porch. Oh, hang on. Oh, never mind. Sorry, I have been exploring other communities and other panels. What I'd really like to do, and if any of you know, you can help me out with this. Some mental health channels, some men's channels, some healthy men's channels. And I know there's some out there, but I'm kind of ambivalent about what I'm seeing from the men's side of things lately, like the Red Pill community. In fact, I might watch the Red Pill documentary today too. I think that's what I'll do. I think if nobody comes up in the next 15 minutes or so, I'll end it and I will go screen the Red Pill. Cassie J's Red Pill documentary. It's really worth watching about some of the struggles that men face in society today. So I don't know if it's evo-psych, evolutionary psychology, like the deep instincts that kind of drive some of these dynamics, but and I'm going to try to look at it through the most charitable lens I can. But in the male world, I think most men, and I think this is a good thing, want to be good. They want to be pro-social. They want to be an asset to their society and the people around them and their communities. And to the extent that they know how to do that, they try to do that. And to the extent that they don't know how, they seek guidance from the people around them that they care about, to the extent that they can receive it. Oh, okay. I'm going to check him out right now. So I think that when they perceive somebody vulnerable, and the phrase is women and children first. I think that noble instinct to step in and kind of protect and help out however they can. You know, cops have that. Our law enforcement depends on that instinct, etc. I just think that instinct gets weaponized. I don't know. Weaponized might imply intent, but from an outside perspective, it appears like something's akin to weaponization. Maybe it's just instinct. I don't know. But when that gets set off, I think that noble instinct to be a hero kicks in, and it can be misapplied and misdirected at the wrong people. And so I see some of that even in the red pill community, that men are still vulnerable to that very positive instinct. I'm not knocking. I would just like to see it used a little more intentionally, I guess. Let's check out this Benjamin Sadiq's channel. So yeah, anyway, more mental health healthy mental health channels. Not the mental health channel that draws all the people that need mental health care, but people that are like further along in their mental health and committed to advancing their own personal development and supporting others on the path, etc. That kind of mental health channel. I'd like to find more of those to kind of start collaborating with. Benjamin. All right, well, I'm going to sure subscribe to him. A personal journey to grow, learn, and find solutions to problems big and small. Do you think he would mind if we peeked in on conflict analysis, Eastern versus Western, the Pareto principle? I've heard of that before. How to create a conspiracy theory. Let's watch that one. Do you think he would mind, Bex? Oh, well, I'll risk it. It's only a few minutes. Let's see what he has to say. I don't know this guy. We're going to all meet him together.
Hey, everyone.
Hey.
So today I'm going to share how to make a conspiracy theory. And I realize this is just one way to do it, but we'll go through the step-by-step process. And you too can make a conspiracy theory.
Level course on it by now.
Step 1, find an event. So it's best to find an unexplained event. Unexplained events are questions that need answers. And conspiracy theories will provide a possible answer where randomness is the only other one. So people will latch on to something that they can explain rather than randomness, because randomness is harder to latch on to.
I don't go too hard on them.
And so just as an example, we'll use the trans social issue.
They're still conspirators.
Step 2, find a part of the event to make your focus. So obviously you can't make the entire issue or the entire thing your focus. You have to find a little part. You have to cherry pick something special in that event and make that the center, the key. Make a mountain out of this little molehill. The entire event might contain many different conspiracies, but each individual conspiracy must be looked at on a case-by-case basis. So there's lots of little molehills there, but each one of them can be made into a mountain and made into a complete conspiracy theory. So we'll just take one part as an example. So use a part of this event as if it's the central theme behind everything. Using our example, let's take the fact that some young children who show signs of homosexuality are convinced that they're actually of a female gender or a male gender and put in surgery as a result.
What does that mean? Just like throw it.
So that's one thing that happens rarely and randomly, but we'll take it out of context and make it into a big mountain. So take this one idea out of context and complexity of everything and project it into the future.
I hope
so we'll take this into the future and see what happens. If that's what that was the whole purpose and the whole reason for this is to put children who are homosexual into surgery. So all potential homosexual children will end up having their reproductive organs destroyed and will not be able to have children. After a few generations, their genetic traits will vanish from the population.
What?
That's how we project it out. Step 4, it must be a plan.
Someone must be planning this.
Okay? So take this extrapolation as if it was the entire focus and center of the plan. See who would most benefit from this plan and blame this group to be the source of the event. So all of the now all of the homosexual children that are going to be born are going to have their genitals mutilated and be turned into an opposite gender. That's the plan. Who's going to benefit from this?
I wonder if he.
So, for our example, we'll say it's the homophobic elites that are trying to kill off the gay gene in our population, or we could just blame it on the Jews. That works too. Next, we have to start our witch hunt. So we have to call into question everyone who has taken part in this plan. So in our example, there's teachers, there's TikTok, there's the Chinese. Blame anyone you want. Homophobic parents, the church, the government, Disney, whatever you want. They're all trying to push this trans agenda and teach your children this ideology. You have to find a witch hunt. Who is complicit, who is just a naivety, and be sure to find a good catchphrase to blame them on committing gay genocide. Who's contriving this plan and taking part in this plan, trying to push it on the masses in order to get rid of this gay gene. So done. Now, my students, go and create many more conspiracy theories. Don't forget to be loud and accusatory. The more noise you make, the more of an impact you will have. Keep in mind, this way of thinking can be used to explain small random events and to vilify your enemies
This is right on
on
that
even a small scale.
borderland
It's very
between
difficult to defend
myth and
intentions
logic.
when the events play out in a certain way. So if events play out in a specific way, you could say, oh, someone was intending it. Even though it could have been an accident. Things could have played out completely contrary to what you wanted to have happen, but you can say the whole time, oh, you wanted to have this happen the whole time. And disclaimer, this video is just satire.
Yes,
Please don't go and do
YouTube,
this.
pay attention
Just
to
be
this
aware
part,
of this thought
especially
pattern.
if you think
This is
about
how it's done,
subscribe to my
and
channel.
pay attention to it.
All right. Well, thank you, Sugar. Oh, shit. Am I having the volume thing again? I'm so tired of this. Why is it... All right. It's turned up full blast. How is this? I don't know why. Let me check Windows. I checked it before I started the show. It's at 100. The Windows volume's holding steady. Well, part of it is because I turned the video up full blast. Because I don't know how to equalize StreamYard from the back. But I just turned myself up double. I'm going to wrap up soon anyway. And go watch that Red Pill documentary. In fact, let me see if I can find it. Yeah, it's about 2 hours. I think I'll do that tonight. And for those of you that want to see it on your own, here's the link. I will be in Discord in about 15-20 minutes watching it myself. In fact, let me put a notice. Alrighty. Well... Oh, because so do I need to turn it back down? You mean the video was so loud you couldn't hear me talking about it? Oh, okay. Yeah, because Alright, how's that? I'm so fucking tired of this. Can somebody invent a device that's just one setup? You just turn it on, the sound is normal, the volume's normal. Everybody how hard is technology? They make billions of fucking dollars. How hard is it to invent a device where people can? One of the most frustrating things about the Panelverse is everybody's technology settings are never like. Oh, hang on, God, adjust my mic, God, adjust my sound. Hang on, I can't hear. Hang on. I'm just having a moment, I guess. I struggle with communication as it is. I always have. And the technology is supposed to help. This is my way of improving that and giving myself an even better shot at it. And when the technology itself is making my communication attempts even worse, it brings up all kind of psychological shit in me. Again, related to that Erickson stage. Am I too much of a freak, even communication-wise, to make it in the world? People that know how to communicate or can communicate fluidly take it for granted, but people that can't, like me, that struggle, it's a timing thing, it's a articulation thing, a pitch thing. I think there's nonverbal elements to it, I don't know, charisma, status, evolutionary, whatever animals evaluate each other on. There's all kind of reasons my voice doesn't carry, hit the bullseye. Fake what? I don't even know what I'm supposed to be faking. That's part of the problem. If I even knew what to fake, I might be able to do it. I mean, I've done acting before. It's not that I can't. I think it's not that I'm bad at masking or faking. I think I don't know what I'm supposed to even be pretending to be. if I could figure that out, I could at least give it a shot. I'd probably botch that too. I don't know. Part of it is like a laziness, path of least resistance thing. It's so much easier to just be me. Like whatever's in my brain, just let it out instead of like trying to figure out a way to change it to be something else for other people to be able to accept it. And some of that could be executive functioning with the neurodivergence. Like I don't have a lot of bandwidth to put on a lot of cognitive complexity with anything related to the body and social stuff. I have plenty of it to put on intellectual things. Oh, they do that in Survivor too. That's how people get blindsided. Yeah, I have a hard time faking it. I can't pretend to understand something when I don't. That's why I ask so many questions. And I stop people when I get confused. Because I assume that they want me to understand. Again, that Northrop Frye quote about genuine personality. Assuming a genuine personality on the other end. Wanting to be heard and communicate. Community. I'm also bad at fake laughing. I noticed that in the gay world. Gays are so good at fake laughing. Gay people will even laugh at their own selves. Like I would watch gay people at the bar tell a story or tell a joke and laugh at themselves as they're telling the story. I'm like, wow, you're entertaining and amusing even your own self. That's quite a feat. I wish I had that talent. If it's not funny, I can't fake a laugh. Like laughing is as a Cajun, we love to laugh. It's very important. It's almost like a spiritual experience to me. And so the only way I know how to laugh is if it's genuine. Like rolling on the floor, peeing in your pants, belly laughs. That can't be faked. Yeah, except people don't like that. That's that intellectual excitability. And while it's an asset for people like me, as Socrates learned, it's not always an asset for the people around you. And when I did that Harold Bloom essay on the internalization of quest romance, there was that passage about it, that internal quest, once you transpose it beyond the ego to the inner realm, that it can be destructive of the social self. Like following that path Emerson has a quote of the way, let's see, you take the way is from man, not to man, or you take the way from man, not to man. That man is the starting point, but society and your fellow man is not always the destination. It's your authentic, whoever you are, whatever you are, that you try to bring into being. Your particular acorn growing into your particular oak. And that's independent of what society thinks your oak should be. I think gay people learn this lesson so early, and I think other identities, some of them are learning it now. But a lot of it is like, yeah, I remember going through that as a gay person. I think men are in that situation now. Some religious groups, subcultures. Speaking of men, got one more minute, and then I'm going to go wrap it up and do the red pill doc. That seems like a good thing to do on a Friday. Reading up. Oh, cool. And one thing to note, Freud had at least two different models or maps of the psyche. He had an initial one that kind of had the id, ego, super ego in a different configuration, and then he revised it into a second id, ego, super ego model. And so kind of be aware that it was never a static concept for him. The I don't even want to speculate because I don't remember which one ended up being the final theory. Maybe I'll present it as a topic one day. But Wikipedia or even AI should be able to give you a good basic summary of the two, like the development of that particular concept over his lifetime. You got to be very careful with Freud because he masquerades as a scientist, but what he's doing is not actually science any more than these implicit bias people are doing science. He's certainly doing observation and insight, but many artists and thinkers before him did the same thing, and I think that's the tradition he's working in. I think he comes at the end of a long literary and philosophical tradition of empiricism and rationalism and speculation and imaginative and creativity. But I don't think he was doing science like we think of science today. And I think people that critique him as a scientist are missing kind of the meaning of Freud. They're looking for the truth, that Freud is truth and not Freud as meaning. And I think Freud as meaning, he's been the most powerful mythologer that we've had in the modern age. Like, who after Freud has permeated our culture as much with their concepts and language as Freud has? You know, accepting the modern postmodernist and the woke. And Freud, as I understand, is kind of one of their targets too, that they're positioning themselves against. Yeah, philosophy and literature and literary criticism. Because a lot, like in Freud's work, a lot of his case studies or analyses are of literary works. Shakespeare plays, Greek tragedies, German fantasy writers. Yeah, you got to be very careful with Freud. He's a very subtle, complex thinker, and he was also Jewish, and his Jewishness informs a lot of his like there's concepts in him that can be traced back to Jewish culture, Jewish philosophy, thinking, speculation. Did Judaism have a philosophy before philosophy? I don't know. Wasn't that Philo of Alexandria? Anyway, oh look, we're 2 minutes over. Pretty good tonight. Okay. Well, it was good hanging out, everybody. I'm gonna head to the Discord to watch the Red Pill documentary about men's issues. I think it's good for Men's Mental Health Month. And maybe I'll be here in the morning for coffee. P.F. Young's not streaming tomorrow, so leaves the field open. That's interesting because, well, art always was kind of like the Latin R's, the art of was always kind of connoted technique and praxis anyway. But I noticed that the trend now is to add the A to STEM to make it STEAM. Like it adds arts to the science techie field. I'm just curious. Like I doubt somehow it's the art of the Western tradition. Maybe that's another thing to look into is STEAM. What exactly is that A in STEAM? What arts is that including? All right. I'll head there now. Take care, everybody, and look for me tomorrow sometime. Morning, evening. Who knows? Who knows when the devil, little demons will pop up. Take care.